Hello, Assalamu alaikum, dear learners of English literature. This time I am going to clarify in front of you Edward Wadi Said's concept culture is an instrument of imperialism. So, as we know that Edward Wadi Said is a great critic as well as philosopher of the late 20th century, and in his literary piece Introduction to Culture and Imperialism, he has very subtly pointed out the relationship between culture and imperialism, as well as he has shown how culture provides ingredients or elements for imperialism. So let's see how Edward Said has discovered the connection between culture and imperialism. So, at the very outset, Edward Said has given his definition of culture. In fact, he has discovered twofold meanings of culture. Primarily, culture means practice of any form of arts and aesthetic beauty. And secondarily, culture means a process of refining and elevating elements. In fact, it is a reservoir of the best. So here we get the information how the imperialist got the ingredients for imperialism from culture. So in the next phase, Edward Said has shown us the fragileness of the native culture. In fact, the then natives, America, of American, African, and Indian. Uh, as it was said, has pointed out the fragileness and weakness of the native culture, and as well as he has said that the native people are very mean-minded and conservative. On the other hand, the colonialist or the imperialist, they are well conceived and concerned, and thus they obtain through challenge in front of the native culture, and in the long run, the native culture got defeated, and ultimately the native people were ruled and dominated by the culture of the imperialist or the colonialist. Then Edward Said has shown us uh, the ethical uh, power of the colonial, in fact, the ethical power of culture. In the then society, it was quite well spread notion by the uh, European rulers, imperial rulers, that it's white man's or it's their duty to civilize the uncivilized parts of the world. So, thus they collected ethical or moral background to rule the overseas colonies. In fact, they often said that their mission in the overseas uh, countries to spread education and religion, but inwardly they were very hypocritical. Their mission is looting and dominating the overseas countries or colonies. But there are these fake posing of notion that spreading uh, light in the dark part of the world, actually in fact spreading religion and education in the dark part of the world had certified them to rule the and loot and dominate the country for years, in fact for centuries. And for that they remain unquestionable to the international community for about 2 centuries. So thus they got ethical power. Actually, culture provides them ethical or moral background for imperialism. Then Edward Said says that literature as an institution of culture. As we know that literature is the mirror of a society. It reflects human behavior, culture, custom, tradition, weather, and a territorial location of a particular country or region. So, undoubtedly, literature provides and, in fact, provided ingredients or elements for the imperialist or colonialist. Here, Edward Said has referred some notable fictional authors, in fact, novelists in the 18th century. Here, we can see a novel named Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. In this novel, indirectly, Daniel Defoe has provided elements for imperialism. And in another novel, notable novel named Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, it's a 20th century novel. And in this novel, Joseph Conrad has actually directly criticized colonialism in Africa, but indirectly, this novel named Heart of Darkness also provides uh, elements or ingredients for colonialism or for the colonialists, how they can last or how they can have lasting establishment of colonialism and face the challenges of colonialism in the overseas colonies. Then Edward Said says about immigration of culture. So the form of imperialism or colonialism has changed. Earlier, we see that the imperial rulers, they occupied territories, and they impose their culture directly, and they extract wealth and the desired aspects from those lands. But in the 20th century, imperialism or colonialism has been destroyed, but still it has been actually it has been transformed into a new shape, in fact in the shape of capitalism and globalization. Now the foreign or the powerful, culturally powerful countries, they are inviting people from the third world countries to work and to learn develop culture in their country. And when the people of the third world countries are going to those developed or culturally developed countries, so-called culturally developed countries, they are learning their culture, and when they're coming back to their own country, they're importing those cultures in their country, and thus they are being influenced tremendously in their own land. So thus culture has been transformed into a new shape, and its influence is really tremendous, and it's a matter of concern for the countries of the third world. So finally, we can just sum up saying that Edward Said is really a great genius in the field of literary criticism. We, the readers, really get surprised seeing the intelligence and brilliance of Edward Said. Edward Said's way of discovering and uh, exposing the real nature of imperialism, and how culture is providing elements or ingredients for imperialism. And the purpose behind all this is to make concern or be aware the third world countries of the world, so that they can keep their freedom, their identity, individuality, as well as sovereignty of their country, in fact, the culture. So here lies the greatness as a critic of Edward Wadi Said. Thank you, learners.